The alarms screamed through the crystal halls of the Galactic Council chambers. Red lights flashed across every surface as the emergency broadcast echoed through the vast space station that floated between three dying stars. Council members from dozens of worlds rushed to their seats, their various forms of communication devices buzzing with urgent messages. Councillor Vexhai of the Alterian Republic stood at his tall, thin frame shaking as he read the data streaming across his tablet. His blue skin had turned pale and his 4 eyes darted between the numbers that told a story of complete destruction. The peaceful Zilani Federation, one of the oldest and most gentle civilizations in the galaxy, was dying. "The harvesters have returned," Vexhai announced to the gathered council. His voice carried the weight of fear that every species in the galaxy had learned to associate with that name. 3 planets in the Zilani system have already been consumed. The mechanical swarms are growing stronger with each world they devour. The massive viewing screen at the center of the chamber flickered to life. It showed the Zilani home system from a long-range probe. Where beautiful green and blue worlds once orbited their yellow star, now only metal spheres remained. Massive machines the size of cities crawled across their surfaces, stripping away everything organic and converting it into more of themselves. Chairman Korth of the Galactic Defense Force slammed his massive fist on his desk. The sound echoed through the chamber like thunder. "How many ships do we have in that sector?" he demanded. "The Zilani had 47 vessels," replied Admiral Thys from her floating command chair. Her tentacles moved nervously as she spoke. "The harvesters destroyed 31 of them in the first wave. The remaining ships are protecting evacuation transports, but they will not last much longer." The council chamber filled with worried whispers in a dozen different languages. Some species clicked their claws against their desks. Others hummed low songs of concern. The Galactic Defense Force had fought the harvesters before, centuries ago. It had taken the combined might of 50 different civilizations to drive them back into deep space. Now they had returned, and their technology had grown stronger while the galaxy had grown soft in times of peace. "We need to send our fleets immediately," declared Representative Zin of the Trade Worlds. Her crystalline form sparkled with urgency. "Every ship we have must—" "With what weapons?" interrupted Admiral Thys. "The reports from the Zilani show that harvester armor has adapted to our plasma cannons and energy weapons. Their hulls absorb our particle beams. Even our strongest missiles barely scratch their surface." A heavy silence fell over the chamber. The truth was uncomfortable but clear. The galaxy had enjoyed centuries of peace. Most civilizations had focused on art, science, and trade rather than weapons of war. Their military fleets were designed for peacekeeping missions and protection from pirates, not for fighting an enemy that could consume entire worlds. "What about the Kragan warrior clans?" suggested someone from the back of the chamber. "Already deployed to defend their own territory," Admiral Thys replied. "The harvesters are moving in multiple directions. We believe this is a coordinated assault across several sectors." The debate continued for precious hours. Some council members argued for immediate deployment of all available forces. Others insisted on waiting for more intelligence about harvester capabilities. A few suggested attempting diplomatic contact, though everyone knew the machines had never responded to any form of communication. As the argument grew more heated, Councillor Vexhai stood quietly at his station, studying his tablet. His fingers moved across the screen, calling up files that most council members had forgotten existed. Files about a small yellow star system on the outer edge of galactic civilization. Files about a species that most civilizations preferred not to think about. "There is another option," Vexhai said quietly. His voice was so soft that it took several moments for the chamber to notice he had spoken. Chairman Korth looked down at the thin alien. "What option, Counselor?" "The humans," Vexhai replied. The chamber fell completely silent. Not even the usual background hum of translation devices could be heard. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others made sounds of disgust or fear. "You cannot be serious," Admiral Thys said, her tentacles curling tightly around her command chair. "The Deathworlders? They come from a planet so violent that most species cannot even visit it without dying." "Exactly," Vexhai said, his voice growing stronger. "Earth is a world of constant natural disasters. Earthquakes that can level cities. Storms that rage for days with winds that can destroy buildings. Floods, fires, and weather patterns that kill millions of their own people every year. Yet the humans not only survive, they thrive." Chairman Korth leaned forward in his massive chair. What are you suggesting? I am suggesting that we need warriors who understand destruction, Vexhai explained. The harvesters are machines of pure violence. They know only how to consume and destroy. Perhaps it takes a species that has spent its entire existence fighting for survival to understand how to fight them. The humans are dangerous, protested Representative Zinn. Their military vessels are built like flying fortresses. Their weapons are crude but devastatingly powerful. They think of war as a natural part of existence, which is exactly what we need right now. Vexhai replied firmly. The Zilani have perhaps 6 hours before their homeworld falls. Their population centers are already under attack. We can spend those 6 hours debating the risks of asking for human help, or we can send the distress signal and hope that the Deathworlders are willing to answer our call. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some species had never directly encountered humans but had heard stories that made them seem like monsters. Others had met human traders and diplomats and found them surprisingly reasonable, if intimidatingly strong. A few had witnessed human military exercises and had been both impressed and terrified by their capabilities. Admiral Thys raised one of her tentacles for silence. If we contact the humans, there is no guarantee they will help. They have shown little interest in galactic politics. They prefer to remain in their own territory, but they have never ignored a genuine distress signal, Vexhai pointed out. Human rescue teams have responded to natural disasters across dozens of worlds. They have a saying, "No one left behind." If we frame this as a rescue mission rather than a military alliance, they might respond. Chairman Korth considered this for a long moment. The sounds of urgent communications continued to stream in from the Zilani system. Each update brought worse news. The harvesters were accelerating their assault. The remaining Zilani ships were running out of ammunition and energy. Very well, the chairman announced. We will send the distress signal to Earth. But let the record show that this decision was made out of desperation, not choice. Vexhai nodded and activated his communication array. The message was simple but desperate. To any human vessels in range, this is the Galactic Council requesting immediate assistance. The Zilani Federation is under attack by hostile forces. Civilian populations are in immediate danger. Please respond if you are willing and able to assist. The signal raced across space at faster than light speeds, carrying with it the hopes and fears of an entire civilization. Somewhere in the darkness between the stars, it would reach human space and the fleet that few aliens had ever seen in action. As the signal transmitted, Vexhai whispered a prayer in his native language. He had just called upon the most dangerous species in the galaxy to come and save them all. He could only hope that when the humans arrived, they would be fighting on the right side. The bridge of the TDF Indomitable hummed with quiet efficiency as Admiral Sarah Chen reviewed the morning reports from her command chair. The massive battleship floated in the asteroid field near Proxima Centauri, its dark hull nearly invisible against the star-speckled void. Around her, the rest of the Terran Defense Fleet conducted training exercises that would have terrified most alien observers. The destroyer TDF Hurricane slammed into a kilometer-wide asteroid at full speed, its reinforced hull designed to survive atmospheric entry, cracking the rock formation in half. The crew inside barely felt the impact thanks to their inertial dampeners and the simple fact that humans had evolved to withstand far worse punishment than most species could imagine. Admiral, we're receiving a priority transmission, announced Communications Officer Martinez from her station. It's coming from the Galactic Council. Chen raised an eyebrow. In the 15 years since humanity had achieved faster-than-light travel, the Galactic Council had made it clear that humans were welcome to trade, but should keep their military activities to themselves. Most alien species found human warfare tactics disturbing at best and genocidal at worst. Put it through, Chen ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing not a single alien face but the official seal of the Galactic Council. The message was audio only, transmitted in basic galactic standard language with human translations provided by their AI systems. To any human vessels in range, this is the Galactic Council, requesting immediate assistance. The Zilani Federation is under attack by hostile forces. Civilian populations are in immediate danger. Please respond if you are willing and able to assist. Chen sat forward in her chair. The bridge crew had stopped their routine tasks to listen. In all their years of interaction with galactic civilization, This was the first time aliens had asked humans for military help. "Timestamp on that transmission?" Chen asked. 4 hours ago, Martinez replied. "The signal took time to reach us across galactic space. Any follow-up messages?" "Negative, Admiral. But I'm picking up fragments of emergency broadcasts from the Zilani system. Whatever's happening there, it's getting worse." Chen activated her command console and pulled up everything the Terran database had on the Zilani Federation. The files showed a peaceful species that had never been involved in any major conflicts. They were known for their skill in agriculture and their beautiful crystal architecture. Their military was primarily focused on search and rescue operations. "Get me Captain Rodriguez on the Hurricane," Chen ordered, "and signal the fleet to form up for an emergency briefing." Within minutes, the holographic forms of 12 ship captains appeared around Chen's command table. Each represented a vessel designed not for elegant space travel, but for survival in the harsh conditions that surrounded Earth. Their ships bore names like Olympus Mons, Krakatoa, Tsunami, and Earthquake. These were weapons of war built by a species that understood violence on a fundamental level. "Ladies and gentlemen," Chen began, "we just received a distress call from the Galactic Council. The Zilani Federation is under attack and they're asking for our help." Captain Rodriguez of the Hurricane leaned forward. "Since when does the Council ask us for anything besides staying out of their business?" "Since now," Chen replied. "Computer, display all available data on current situation in Zilani space." The holographic display showed a star system in chaos. Long-range sensors revealed massive mechanical structures consuming entire planets. Energy readings showed weapons fire and explosions on a scale that dwarfed most galactic conflicts. "Jesus," whispered Captain Thompson of the Yellowstone. "What are those things?" "Unknown hostiles," Chen replied. "But based on the energy signatures and the fact that the Council is desperate enough to call us, I'd say we're looking at something that conventional galactic military forces can't handle." The captains studied the data in silence. Each of them had joined the Terran Defense Force knowing that humanity's role in the galaxy was unique. While other species had evolved on relatively stable worlds, humans came from a planet that had spent billions of years trying to kill everything that lived on it. This had made them excellent at two things: surviving impossible situations and developing weapons that could destroy anything. "What's the tactical situation?" asked Captain Kim of the Vesuvius. "Unknown enemy capabilities, unknown numbers, friendly forces taking heavy casualties," Chen replied. In other words, a typical Tuesday for the TDF. Several captains chuckled grimly. Human military doctrine had been developed during centuries of warfare on a planet where nature itself was hostile. They were used to fighting enemies they didn't understand in conditions that would kill them if they made mistakes. "Fleet status?" Chen continued. "All ships at full combat readiness," reported Captain Singh of the Tornado. "We've got full ammunition loads and all systems green." "Distance to Zilani space?" 7 days at maximum FTL burn," Martinez announced from her station. Chen considered the situation. 7 days was a long time in a combat situation, but it was also enough time to prepare properly. The Terran Defense Fleet had never engaged in a major alien conflict, but they had been training for this possibility since first contact with galactic civilization. "Here's what we're going to do," Chen announced. "Signal Earth Command that we're responding to the distress call under Emergency Protocol 7. All ships will make maximum burn to Zilani space. En route, I want every crew studying everything we know about Zilani technology and anything else the computer can tell us about this situation." "Rules of engagement?" asked Captain Rodriguez. Chen's expression hardened. "Protect civilians, eliminate hostile forces, and remind the galaxy why humans don't start fights but always finish them." The captains nodded understanding. Human military philosophy was simple and direct: protect the innocent, destroy threats, and never leave anyone behind. It was a philosophy born from a world where failure meant extinction. "One more thing," Chen added. "I want all ships to transmit standard first contact protocols as we enter Zilani space. Let them know we're coming to help, not to conquer." "Admiral," interrupted Martinez, "I'm receiving a priority transmission from Earth Command." The screen changed to show Admiral Harrison, commander of Earth's orbital defense platforms. His weathered face showed the concern of a man who had spent 40 years preparing for humanity's first major galactic conflict. "Sarah, please tell me you're not about to start an interstellar war," Harrison said without preamble. "Not planning on it, sir," Chen replied. "But if something's killing civilians and the Council is asking for our help, We're going to respond. Understood. I'm authorizing full deployment. The shipyards are already preparing reinforcements in case you need them. And Sarah? Yes, sir. Show them what human engineering can do. Make Earth proud. The transmission ended and Chen turned back to her captains. You heard the man. Signal all ships to prepare for FTL jump. We leave in 1 hour. As the captain's holograms disappeared and the crew began final preparations, Chen stood at the main viewport looking out at the asteroid field. In the distance, she could see the other ships of her fleet positioning themselves for the jump to faster-than-light speeds. Each vessel represented the pinnacle of human military engineering. Ships designed to operate in the worst conditions imaginable and carry weapons that could crack planets. The Indomitable's engines began their low rumble as the FTL drive charged. Around the ship, space began to distort as reality prepared to bend to human will and determination. In 7 days, the Zilani would learn that when humans received a distress call, they answered with everything they had. Chen activated the ship's intercom system. All hands, this is the Admiral. We're about to undertake our first major rescue mission in galactic space. Some of you have never seen combat against alien forces. Some of you have never been in a real fight at all. But I want you to remember something. We come from Earth. We are the children of hurricanes and earthquakes, of ice ages and asteroid impacts. We are survivors by nature and warriors by necessity. Today we show the galaxy what that means. The stars began to stretch into lines as the FTL drive engaged. The Terran defense fleet disappeared into hyperspace, carrying with them the hopes of an entire species and the firepower to back up those hopes. The Terran defense fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zilani system, like 12 dark thunderbolts emerging from a storm. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, her face grim as the tactical display updated with real-time sensor data. What she saw made her blood run cold. The outer planets of the system were gone, not destroyed but transformed into something unrecognizable. Massive mechanical structures covered their surfaces like metallic cancer. The machines were geometric and precise, each one the size of a mountain, working together to strip away everything organic and convert it into more of themselves. My God, whispered Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station. How many of them are there? Computer estimates at least 10 million individual units, reported Commander Jackson from Tactical. And they're still growing. Each harvester unit appears to be creating more of itself using raw materials from the planets. Chen activated the fleet communication channel. All ships, this is Admiral Chen. What you're seeing is our enemy. They call themselves harvesters and they turn entire worlds into machines. Our job is to stop them and protect any remaining civilians. On the main screen, the tactical display showed the heart of the system where the Zilani homeworld struggled to survive. Beautiful crystal ships, the few remaining vessels of the Zilani fleet, darted between massive metallic predators like insects fleeing from giants. Energy beams lanced through space as the organic ships tried desperately to protect evacuation transports filled with refugees. Signal from the Zilani flagship, announced Communications Officer Martinez. They're requesting immediate assistance. Their shields are failing and they have maybe 20 minutes of ammunition left. How long to reach them at full burn? Chen asked. 18 minutes, replied the navigation officer. Then we'd better move fast. All ships, maximum acceleration. Target the largest harvester units first. Let's give these machines something new to think about. The human fleet shot forward like bullets fired from the guns of an angry god. Their dark hulls, designed to withstand the punishment of Earth's violent weather systems, gleamed dully in the light of the Zilani sun. Behind them, their engines left trails of superheated plasma that cut through space like swords. Captain Rodriguez commanded the destroyer Hurricane from his reinforced bridge, watching as his ship closed the distance to the battle zone. His vessel had been built to survive atmospheric entry at terminal velocity, designed with the understanding that sometimes you had to charge directly into danger to save lives. Harvester Dreadnought directly ahead, reported his tactical officer. It's the size of a small moon and covered in weapon arrays. Perfect, Rodriguez replied with a grim smile. All weapons target their primary structures. Let's see how they handle kinetic rounds designed to punch through asteroid armor. The Hurricane's main guns opened fire, sending depleted uranium slugs toward the harvester ship at significant fractions of light speed. The rounds had been designed for destroying space debris that threatened Earth's orbital installations. but they worked just as well against alien machines. The first volley struck the Harvester dreadnought's hull with devastating effect. Where Zilani energy weapons had barely scratched the surface, human kinetic rounds punched through armor plating like it was paper. Explosions bloomed across the mechanical giant's surface as internal systems overloaded and failed. "Direct hits," reported the tactical officer with surprise in his voice. "Their armor can't handle our kinetic weapons." "Makes sense," Rodriguez replied as he ordered another volley. "They've probably adapted to energy weapons over the centuries, but there's no clever way to adapt to a chunk of metal moving at 50,000 kilometers per second." Across the battle zone, the other human ships were having similar success. The Vesuvius, under Captain Kim's command, had closed to point-blank range with a Harvester cruiser and was systematically destroying it with plasma cannons designed for volcanic mining operations. The weapons had been built to cut through solid rock in Earth's most extreme environments, and they carved through alien metal like it was butter. "Admiral," came Captain Thompson's voice over the communication channel, "the Harvesters are trying to adapt their tactics. They're swarming smaller units around our ships." Chen watched the tactical display as thousands of fighter-sized Harvester units converged on the human fleet like angry wasps. Each one was armed with cutting beams that could slice through most galactic ship armor. "All ships activate point defense systems," Chen ordered. "And remember, these things are machines. They think logically, but they don't understand crazy." The human ships immediately began maneuvers that would have been impossible for most galactic vessels. They spun and twisted through space like fighters rather than capital ships, their crews protected by inertial dampeners designed to keep humans alive during Earth's worst earthquake conditions. The Yellowstone rolled completely upside down while firing its weapons, using a maneuver that Captain Thompson had learned during asteroid belt combat training. The Hurricane actually accelerated directly toward a cluster of Harvester fighters, using its reinforced hull as a battering ram to clear a path through the swarm. "This is insane," came a transmission from one of the surviving Zilani ships. "Your vessels are behaving like they want to be destroyed." "Negative," replied Captain Singh from the Tornado. "We're behaving like we're used to surviving in conditions that would kill everything else." The human tactics were completely foreign to the Harvesters' tactical programming. The machines had evolved to fight opponents who valued their ships and tried to preserve them. They couldn't understand an enemy that treated their vessels like expendable weapons and their crews like they were already dead. Admiral Chen watched as the tide of battle began to turn. The Harvester forces were powerful and numerous, but they were struggling to adapt to human fighting methods. Every time they adjusted their tactics to counter one human strategy, the humans would switch to something completely different. "Admiral," reported Commander Jackson, "we're receiving grateful communications from the Zilani evacuation ships. They're asking if we need assistance." Chen almost smiled. The idea of the peaceful Zilani trying to help in this kind of combat was both touching and absurd. "Tell them to keep running and get their people to safety. We'll handle the heavy lifting." On the main screen, she could see Harvester reinforcements moving in from the outer system. Massive ships that dwarfed even the largest human vessels were adjusting course to join the battle. The tactical computer estimated that the human fleet was outnumbered by at least 50-1. "All ships," Chen announced over the fleet channel. "We've got company coming. Looks like the main Harvester fleet wants to play." "Orders, Admiral?" asked Captain Rodriguez. Chen studied the tactical display for a moment, counting enemy ships and calculating odds. By any reasonable military analysis, the human fleet should retreat immediately. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and fighting an enemy they didn't fully understand. But Sarah Chen hadn't become Admiral of the Terran Defense Fleet by being reasonable. She had earned her rank by understanding that sometimes the only way to win was to do something so completely insane that the enemy couldn't predict or counter it. "All ships, form up for assault formation," she ordered. "We're going to show these machines what humans do when someone threatens innocent people." "Admiral," interrupted Commander Jackson, "the tactical computer estimates our chances of survival at less than 12%. "Then we'd better make those 12% count," Chen replied. "Signal all ships. Protocol Deathworld is now in effect." Across the human fleet, crew members began implementing combat procedures that had been developed specifically for fighting in impossible conditions. Damage control teams prepared for hull breaches. Weapons officers armed munitions that were normally considered too dangerous to use in space combat. Marines checked their equipment for boarding actions that most galactic species would consider suicidal. The Zilani survivors, floating in their crystal ships, watched in amazement as the human fleet actually accelerated toward the incoming harvester reinforcements. To alien eyes, it looked like a dozen ships charging directly into certain death, but to human eyes it looked like Tuesday. The space around the Zilani homeworld had become a hurricane of metal and fire. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as her ship shuddered under the impact of harvester weapons, but the reinforced hull held firm. Around her, the bridge crew worked with the calm efficiency of people who had trained for exactly this kind of impossible situation. "All ships, implement Protocol Deathworld," Chen commanded into her communication array. "I want every dirty trick we learned in the asteroid belts, every desperate maneuver we practiced in the solar storms. These machines think they understand warfare, but they've never fought someone from Earth." Across the human fleet, captains and crews began executing tactics that would have horrified most galactic military observers. Captain Rodriguez piloted the Hurricane directly into the side of a harvester dreadnought, using his ship's reinforced nose to punch through their hull like a giant bullet. The impact would have destroyed any normal vessel, but the Hurricane had been built to survive atmospheric entry at terminal velocity. "Boarding teams, go," Rodriguez shouted as his ship's airlocks connected with the interior of the enemy vessel. Sergeant Martinez led her Marines through the breach into the mechanical interior of the harvester ship. The passages were filled with geometric metal structures and flowing energy conduits that pulsed with alien light. Her squad carried weapons designed for hunting the massive predators that roamed Earth's wilderness areas: plasma, rifles that could bring down a charging rhinoceros, and explosive charges meant for clearing earthquake debris. "Keep moving," Martinez ordered as her team advanced through corridors that seemed to shift and reconfigure around them. These machines adapt fast, but they can't adapt to what they can't predict. The Marines moved through the harvester ship like a virus that the machine's immune system couldn't identify. They cut through support structures with plasma torches, planted explosive charges in critical systems, and fought running battles with mechanical repair drones that tried to stop them. Back in space, Captain Kim of the Vesuvius was demonstrating another uniquely human approach to space combat. Her ship had taken severe damage to its weapon systems, but instead of retreating, she had ordered her crew to ram the vessel directly into a cluster of harvester fighters. "All hands, brace for impact," Kim announced as her ship plowed through the enemy formation like a runaway train. The Vesuvius's armor, designed to survive volcanic explosions and seismic activity, held together as smaller harvester units shattered against its hull. "Damage report," Kim called out as her ship emerged from the mechanical debris field. "Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12, replied her damage control officer. "But we're still spaceworthy, and we took out at least 40 enemy fighters. Outstanding. Signal the fleet that ramming attacks are effective against smaller units." Admiral Chen watched the tactical display as her ships continued their impossible dance of destruction. The human fleet was taking damage, but they were giving far more than they received. The harvesters, despite their superior numbers and technology, were struggling to adapt to human tactics that seemed to ignore basic principles of self-preservation. "Admiral," reported Commander Jackson, "the harvesters are pulling back their smaller units. They seem to be concentrating their forces around their largest vessels." "Smart move," Chen replied. "Too bad for them that we planned for that too. Signal all ships, implement Scorched Earth Protocol." The order went out across the human fleet, and within minutes the nature of the battle changed completely. The human ships began deploying weapons that most galactic civilizations had banned centuries ago, as too dangerous for use in space combat. Nuclear mines, originally designed for asteroid mining operations, began exploding throughout the harvester formation. Each detonation created a sphere of superheated plasma and radiation that scrambled electronic systems and melted metal armor. The harvesters, programmed to harvest and preserve resources, had no protocols for dealing with enemies who were willing to irradiate entire sectors of space. Captain Singh of the Tornado took the concept even further. His ship had been equipped with experimental weapons based on Earth's most dangerous natural phenomena. Solar flare generators, plasma storm projectors, and gravitational wave disruptors turned the space around his vessel into a miniature version of the worst conditions found in Earth's solar system. "Target their command ship," Singh ordered as his weapons officer prepared a gravitational torpedo. Let's see how well their systems handle a localized gravity storm. The torpedo struck the Harvester command vessel and detonated, creating a sphere of twisted space-time that pulled nearby debris into spiraling patterns. The mechanical ship's precise geometries buckled under gravitational forces that changed direction every few seconds. Internal systems that required exact calibration to function began failing as the ship's structure warped and twisted, but the battle was far from over. The main Harvester fleet had finally arrived from the outer system, and Admiral Chen found herself facing odds that would have made any sane military commander retreat immediately. Harvester dreadnoughts the size of cities moved into position, their weapons arrays charging with enough energy to destroy planets. "Admiral," reported Lieutenant Torres from the sensor station, "I'm counting over 300 capital ships and at least 10,000 smaller vessels. They're forming a battle sphere around our position." Chen studied the tactical display, counting her remaining assets. The human fleet was down to 8 operational ships, most of them damaged. By any reasonable calculation, they were about to be completely destroyed. "Signal from the Zelani evacuation fleet," announced Martinez. "They're clear of the system and asking if we need assistance." "Tell them to keep running," Chen replied. "And send a message to Earth Command. Let them know that if we don't make it out of this, they should prepare for a full-scale invasion." She paused for a moment, looking at the faces of her bridge crew. They were scared. Only an idiot wouldn't be scared in this situation, but they were also determined. They had signed up to protect humanity and its allies, and they weren't going to stop just because the odds were impossible. "All ships," Chen announced over the fleet channel. "This is it. We're outnumbered, outgunned, and probably about to die. But we're also human, which means we're too stupid to know when we're beaten. I want everyone to remember that we didn't come out here to win a fair fight. We came here to save people, and that's exactly what we're going to do." She turned to her weapons officer. "Load the special package. Admiral, are you sure? Once we deploy those, there's no going back, I'm sure. Signal all ships to prepare for final assault. We're going to hit them with everything we have, including the weapons we swore we'd never use." The human fleet began moving into attack formation, their damaged ships somehow still maintaining perfect coordination. Behind them, the evacuation ships carrying Zelani civilians disappeared into hyperspace, carrying with them the story of the Deathworlders who had answered their call for help. In the depths of the Indomitable's weapons bay, automated systems began arming humanity's most terrible creation, devices that could crack open planets and turn stars into weapons. They had been built for planetary defense against extinction-level threats, but today they would serve a different purpose. Today, they would teach the galaxy that when humans made a promise to protect someone, they kept that promise no matter what the cost. The final assault began with a sound that no one in space should have been able to hear. As the human fleet charged into the heart of the Harvester formation, their weapons created explosions so massive that they generated gravity waves that rattled every ship in the system. Admiral Chen watched from the bridge of the Indomitable as her gamble either saved 2 civilizations or destroyed them both. "All ships, fire everything," Chen commanded as the fleet entered the center of the Harvester battlesphere. The special weapons deployed from the human ships were not just powerful, they were terrifying in ways that most galactic species couldn't understand. Planet cracker bombs that used controlled nuclear fusion to tear apart matter at the atomic level. Gravity weapons that created artificial black holes for split seconds. Solar flare generators that turned space itself into a weapon. The Harvesters, despite their advanced technology and adaptive programming, had never encountered weapons designed by a species that lived on a world actively trying to kill them. Their shields and armor had been configured to handle energy weapons and kinetic projectiles, not devices that literally broke the laws of physics in small, localized areas. Captain Rodriguez watched from the bridge of the Hurricane as one of his nuclear mining charges detonated inside a Harvester dreadnought. The explosion created a miniature star that consumed the mechanical ship from the inside out, turning metal and circuitry into superheated plasma that spread in all directions. "Jesus," whispered his tactical officer. "We just turned their ship into a sun, and we're going to do it again," Rodriguez replied grimly. "These machines want to consume worlds. Let's give them something they can't digest." But the human victory came at a terrible cost. The Yellowstone took a direct hit from 3 Harvester capital ships and broke apart in a shower of metal and fire. Captain Thompson and her crew of 200 died in the explosion, but not before their final torpedo salvo destroyed 2 enemy vessels. The tsunami lost its entire forward section, but continued fighting with its remaining weapons until the last moment. In the depths of space, Sergeant Martinez and her Marines were still fighting inside a Harvester dreadnought when the ship's main reactor began to overload. The mechanical systems around them started melting as temperatures rose beyond anything most organic life could survive. "This is Martinez to Hurricane," she reported over her communication device. "The ship's reactor is going critical. We need immediate extraction." "Negative, Sergeant," came Rodriguez's voice through the static. "We can't get close enough without being caught in the explosion." Martinez looked at her remaining squad members. They were down to 6 Marines from the original 20, and they were trapped inside a ship that was about to become a miniature star. By any reasonable standard, they were dead. "Then we go out with style," Martinez announced to her team. "Plant the rest of the charges in the reactor core. If this thing's going to explode, let's make sure it takes a few friends with it." The Marines worked quickly, placing their remaining explosive charges around the Harvester reactor systems. The temperature was rising rapidly, and their environmental suits were already showing red warning lights. When the charges detonated, they would trigger a chain reaction that would destroy not just their ship, but 3 others nearby. "For Earth and the colonies," Martinez said quietly as she activated the timer. "For Earth and the colonies," her squad replied. Back on the Indomitable, Admiral Chen watched the tactical display as the tide of battle finally turned. The Harvester fleet was breaking apart under the assault of weapons they couldn't understand or counter. Ships that had consumed entire worlds were being destroyed by devices originally designed for mining asteroids and redirecting comets. "Admiral," reported Commander Jackson, "the main Harvester command ship is trying to retreat to the outer system." "Not happening," Chen replied. "Signal the Krakatoa and the Vesuvius. I want that ship stopped before it can call for reinforcements." The 2 human vessels, both severely damaged, moved to intercept the fleeing Harvester command ship. Captain Kim of the Vesuvius had lost most of her weapon systems, but she still had one option left. "All hands abandon ship," Kim announced over her ship's intercom. "Set course for the enemy command vessel. We're going to ram them." The crew of the Vesuvius evacuated to escape pods as their ship accelerated toward the massive Harvester vessel. Kim remained on the bridge alone, manually piloting her ship on its final mission. At the last moment, she activated every explosive device remaining on the vessel. The collision created a fireball that could be seen from the edge of the solar system. When the light faded, both ships were gone, along with the Harvester fleet's command structure and any hope of coordinated resistance. The remaining Harvester ships, now operating without central coordination, began to flee in all directions. Some tried to return to the outer system. Others attempted to reach hyperspace and escape entirely. But the human fleet, despite their losses, pursued them relentlessly. "No survivors," Chen ordered grimly. "We can't let any of them escape to warn others or regroup somewhere else." The final phase of the battle lasted another 6 hours, as human ships hunted down fleeing Harvesters throughout the system. When it was over, the space around the Zelani homeworld was filled with the debris of both fleets. Of the 12 ships that had answered the distress call, only 4 remained operational. 3 days later, Admiral Chen stood in the crystal halls of the rebuilt Galactic Council chambers on the Zelani homeworld. The beautiful structures had been damaged by the Harvester attack, but were already being repaired by Zelani engineers working alongside human construction teams. The council chamber was packed with representatives from dozens of species, all of them watching the small group of humans who had somehow saved an entire civilization. Counselor Vexhai stood at the center of the room, his thin frame somehow seeming taller and more dignified than before. "Admiral Chen," Vexhai began, "on behalf of the Galactic Council and the Zelani Federation, I thank you for your response to our distress call. Your actions have saved millions of lives and protected one of our oldest civilizations." Chen nodded politely, but remained standing at attention. Around her, the surviving members of her fleet waited in dress uniforms that had been hastily cleaned and repaired after the battle. "However," Vexhai continued, Your methods have raised concerns among some council members. The weapons you deployed were far more destructive than anything previously seen in galactic warfare. Some species worry about the implications of such technology. Chen's expression hardened slightly. Counselor, we use the minimum force necessary to protect civilian lives. If you're concerned about our weapons, I suggest you be grateful that we're on your side. A murmur ran through the chamber as various aliens discussed this response in their native languages. Some seemed impressed by human directness. Others appeared nervous about the implications. What Admiral Chen means, interrupted Captain Singh, diplomatically, is that humanity takes its responsibilities seriously. When someone calls for help, we respond with everything we have. Chairman Korth leaned forward in his massive chair. And what do you want in return for this assistance? Chen looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives from species that had previously viewed humans as dangerous outsiders. We want what we've always wanted, to be left alone to protect our own people and to trade peacefully with our neighbors. But we also want recognition that sometimes the galaxy needs people who know how to fight. You're proposing a military alliance? Asked Admiral Thiss. I'm proposing that next time something threatens innocent civilians, you don't wait 4 hours to ask for help, Chen replied bluntly. The Zilani almost died while you debated whether we were trustworthy enough to call. Vex High stepped forward. What would you propose? Chen glanced at her surviving officers, then back at the assembled council. The Terran Protectorate. We'll maintain a rapid response fleet specifically for defending civilian populations against threats like the Harvesters. In exchange, we want full recognition as a galactic civilization and the right to establish defensive stations in strategic locations. The chamber erupted in discussion as representatives debated the proposal. Some species were enthusiastic about having human protection. Others worried about giving the Deathworlders too much military authority. Finally, Chairman Korth called for order. The proposal will be put to a formal vote, but I believe I can speak for most of the council when I say that your actions have earned our respect and our gratitude. As the session continued, Chen stood quietly listening to the debates about humanity's role in galactic civilization. Through the crystal windows of the chamber, she could see human and Zilani work crews collaborating to repair the damage from the Harvester attack. Children from both species played together in the courtyards while their parents worked side by side. It wasn't the future that anyone had planned, but it was a future where two very different civilizations had learned to trust each other. The Ryu. Humans had proved that their strength could be used to protect rather than conquer, and the galaxy had learned that sometimes salvation came from the most unexpected places. When the final vote was tallied, the Terran Protectorate was approved by a wide margin. Thank you for watching and comment for next part.